Columbia College moves ahead in its search for leadership.
Sheriffs from across Missouri give President Obama their 2 cents.
And fighting bullies in Fulton. KOMU 8 News First at 5 starts now.
Live from Studio 8A, coverage you can count on in high definition. This is KOMU 8 News First at 5.
It is an increasing problem in today's society, school bullies. Tonight, Fulton schools will take a step against it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Reek.
And I'm Lauren Richardson. A nationally known expert on school bullying and crisis prevention is set to talk to parents of Fulton in just under an hour. KOMU 8's Joe Chiodo is live from Fulton as they begin to set up. Joe?
Jim and Lauren, you know I'm here in the cafeteria right now where the event will take place tonight. And tonight's title of the event is Parenting in a Challenging World. And the concept behind that name is actually because of this device right here in my hand, cell phones. You know, they can do a lot of good, but they can also do some bad with the increased amount of texting and social media. It's also shot up the amount of bullying in the current society. Now that, coupled with a rise in the amount of suicides in Callaway County, as well as tragedies in schools such as the Sandy Hook shooting that just took place, the superintendent of Fulton Schools said something just had to be done. Now, earlier today, we came up to Fulton right before expert Scott Poland began teaching the staff how to deal with preventing bullying and suicides and just school safety in general. He told us today's training wasn't just for teachers, but for all staff, including bus drivers, custodians, and cafeteria workers. Students had the day off, actually, so that the teaching wouldn't go interrupted. Now, when Poland talks to parents in just under an hour, he's going to focus on 3 things. One of those, identifying risk behavior in children. The other, recognizing and reducing bullying in the classroom, and supporting children who have been a target of bullying. Now, the superintendent told me one of the main reasons for tonight's event is because older generations never really had to worry about talking to their kids about school tragedies.
Parents are stressed today, and there's a lot of community issues nationwide when you look at the school shooting and say, how do you help your child cope with things that I don't believe that as parents that we dealt with.
Now, tonight's event, of course, is open for parents of the public, especially in Fulton, and it kicks off at 6 o'clock, just under an hour. We will have more for you on KOMU 8 News at 6. Reporting live in Fulton, Joe Chiodo, KOMU 8 News.
A pretty good day here in central Missouri, although a windy one. We've had some winds reported sustained at about 20 miles per hour and gusting well over 20 miles per hour. And today's high temperature better than we expected, 56 degrees. You're looking at a clear scan right now of live Doppler 8 first alert radar. Absolutely clear skies out there at sunset. Look at these numbers. We're at 57 in Jefferson City, 54 at the lake. It's 54 in Boonville in Mexico. A little cooler in Moberly, where it's 43 degrees. Even now, this evening, it won't be too bad. Probably a jacket will do you. With a clear sky, we'll have temperatures falling back into the mid-40s by about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. More on that forecast to look at the weekend coming up on KOMU 8 News First at 5.
The Boone County Sheriff told us today he doesn't support a group of Missouri sheriffs that sent President Barack Obama a letter earlier this week in response to the calls for tougher gun laws. The letter, authored by Johnson County Sheriff Charlie Heiss, calls on sheriffs across the county to stand up against federal government if laws are passed that diminish Second Amendment rights. Boone County Sheriff Dwayne Carey spoke to the Boone County Pachyderms Club about several issues. He said he thinks people need to slow down and take a step back until something is done in concrete.
Until we see something that's, needs appropriate action, I think we ought to just sit back and kind of wait and see what the situation's going to bring.
At the meeting today, Sheriff Carey also said the Boone County Sheriff's Department will be performing more search warrants and traffic stops inside the city's limits of Columbia. Carey says local police are welcoming the deputies' role inside the city.
Local police has no problem with what I'm doing. In fact, I think they're very happy that we're doing that. So I really don't have any explanation that I'm having to give, because I think it's real positive what we're doing.
Carey says the department's focus in on the county and the city falls within its county jurisdiction.
Missouri lawmakers are trying new ways to prevent the making of meth. Sedalia Republican Stanley Cox is pushing a bill that would further limit the amount of cold and allergy medicine shoppers can buy over the counter each month. In 2012, there were nearly 1,600 cases of meth labs in Missouri, down from more than 2,000 the year before. Jefferson City Police arrested another man as part of their ongoing investigation into heroin-related overdoses. Police arrested 32-year-old Frank Collins III today, saying he's part of a heroin distribution ring throughout mid-Missouri. This comes after the December 14th arrest of 44-year-old Tracy Davis on the same charges. Both men, originally from Chicago, are being held on 3 counts of distribution of a controlled substance and are being held on $250,000 bond.
A Stover man pleaded not guilty in the deaths of an elderly couple who were beaten to death in their home. The Lake Sun Leader reports 25-year-old Ronald Blowers pleaded to second-degree murder Thursday to the December 2012 deaths of 82-year-old Wayne Wells and 71-year-old Mabel Wells. The couple was found dead in a home just south of Stover. Police say when officers tried to arrest Blowers at his home on December 4th, he stabbed himself repeatedly and said, quote, "I did not mean to do it." He ran into the woods and was eventually caught by police. Blowers had been paroled November 21st after serving a 4-year sentence for a 2007 burglary conviction. Columbia College announced today their interim president, who will take place of retiring Gerald Broder for the upcoming academic year. Terry Smith, the current vice president and dean for academic affairs, will serve until the next president of the college is named. The new permanent position is set to be filled by July 1st, 2014. Smith explained the search for a new president will be difficult.
It is a very solid institution. Dr. Bruder's one of the most highly respected individuals in Columbia, so it's going to take a national search and a very strong pool of candidates to replace him.
College officials told us the search will begin immediately.
Eldon residents told us today they want to stop a sewage system that would dump into Blue Springs Creek. The plant would treat water from the Lake of the Ozarks area. Residents say this could possibly contaminate the water they use for swimming, fishing, and other activities. One resident whose business is just several feet away from the creek says if the system malfunctions, her business could suffer.
But anyway, when that backwater comes up, it gets almost up to my driveway. And I have customers coming in and out of here all day long, 5 or 6 days a week. So that would put the creek and the sewage right up and where my customers come in.
A meeting is scheduled for January 30th for residents in the DNR to voice concerns and try to come up with a solution. A new plan on a long-term federal budget deal, and the mayor who weathered Hurricane Katrina faces a new storm.
KOMU8's Colin Ruane joins us now with your first look at news around the nation.
If lawmakers don't reach a budget deal, they won't get paid. Or that's the idea behind a House Republican-led initiative representatives will vote on next week. They're pushing for a 3-month extension of the debt limit with a requirement that both chambers pass a budget or go without pay. House Speaker John Boehner wants to pursue strategies obligating the Senate to join the House in confronting the government spending problem. The Senate hasn't passed a budget in 4 years. A federal grand jury today indicted former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin. Nagin is charged with 21 counts of bribery, conspiracy to deprive citizens of home services, money laundering, wire fraud, and filing false tax returns. The federal indictment accuses Nagin of accepting more than $160,000 in bribes and gratuities from contractors while the city recovered from Hurricane Katrina. And the body of a Chicago man is being exhumed today as police continue their $1 million murder investigation. Workers started digging up Uruj Khan's grave this morning at Rose Hill Cemetery. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office wants to inspect his remains to see if they can determine how cyanide got into his system. Khan won $1 million from a state lottery ticket last year, but before he could collect his reward, he suddenly died. Authorities originally ruled he died of natural causes, but was reclassified as a homicide after a family member asked police to dig deeper into Khan's death. And that's your first look at national news tonight.
The Algerian army is still searching for Islamists who captured and took hundreds of gas plants workers hostage. The Algerian State News Service says the Islamists freed nearly 100 of the 132 foreign workers, but are still looking for the captors and the remaining hostages. The Algerian Prime Minister told British Prime Minister Dave Cameron Algerian forces are also still engaged with some of the Islamist militants. The Syrian state media is blaming rebel fighters for a rocket that hit a building in Aleppo Friday. Video broadcasts on state TV appeared to show the floors of the targeted building collapsed in a government-controlled area. Aleppo is Syria's largest city and is main commercial hub. Meanwhile, amateur video claimed to show airstrikes on Hama and a suburb of Damascus. The UN says the conflict in Syria has claimed more than 60,000 lives since it began nearly 2 years ago in March 2011. UN talks with Iran failed again this week as the two sides try to secure a breakthrough deal on the country's nuclear program. Speaking after 2 days of talks in Tehran, the Deputy Director General of the UN's nuclear watchdog agency said his inspectors had not been granted access to secret military sites. Despite the major setback, inspectors say they set a date for more talks in February. The worst flu season in years.
That's what they say. Coming up, what the government is doing to stop the flu. That's coming up in your health.
And it looks to be an interesting weekend in mid-Missouri weather-wise with contrasting weather systems. I'll explain next on KOMU 8 News, first at 5.
And you are looking live over downtown Columbia. Actually, that's not over downtown Columbia. That's right at street level. This is KOMU 8 News, first at 5. Coverage you can count on.